Hey, good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Let's Talk About It. This is Susan Johnson, and I'm here with my co-host, Dennis O'Brien, and boy, do we have a fabulous guest for you today. We have my former speaker, Joe Aresimowicz, and we are so pleased to have him here to talk a little bit about the end of session, what happened during session, and we're going to have a great conversation about all the details, right, Dennis?
Absolutely. I want to talk to Joe about a lot of things. And, I want to talk about if he misses coaching football.
Yeah. Hey, Joe, welcome to the show.
Thanks. Hey, guys. Thanks for having me on. I've heard of Johnson Family Vacation, but, now I'm on the Johnson Family Radio Show with Dennis O'Brien, too. This is awesome.
Actually, it's the O'Brien Family Radio Show with Susan Johnson.
Well, we'll fight about that later, honey.
I'm wearing a hat for the Little League team we sponsored when I coached for all those years, O'Brien and Johnson. I got it on
awesome.
right now. And, we're a team. And we work together quite well, but it's not
top
perfect.
Billing is top billing.
Well, I'm the senior member. Anyway, great to have you back on the show. You were on a few months ago.
Yes.
And I think it was around the time of the Super Bowl, and I was all excited because I'm a big Eagles fan, and boy, was I delighted with that result.
Yeah.
You were surprised, right?
I did. I didn't know if they'd be able to really pull it out. I guessed correctly that they were going to try to stop the running game with Barkley having such a phenomenal year.
Yeah, they did.
And your quarterback stepped up and delivered the win in the air, which was great.
Well, they have their team was pretty solid on offense and defense all around. And I think regular Eagles fans who watch most of the games like me, I knew that. But you know what, Mahomes. Hey, it's tough to beat Mahomes.
Yeah, he just understands what it takes. The special players always do when it's crunch time and it's on the line. They have that extra gear, that extra mental ability just to continue to do what they do. You saw it with Brady. You see it with Mahomes. I bet you're hoping that you see it with your team moving forward, especially Saquon.
Yeah, I mean, Hurts seems to be getting better. I mean, he when he first came up, when he first became a starter, he was kind of reluctant to throw to the middle of the field, and he's grown a lot. And I mean, he came up mostly as a running quarterback. But anyway, enough about that stuff. But you're not coaching anymore. I got to hand it to you. You've given up some really good jobs. You were Speaker of the House of Representatives, and also the coach of the Berlin Redcoats, a great football team. I actually signed up to be a member of that Berlin Redcoats group because of you. And
I know, and I saw the thumbs up on some of the stuff I was posting. I really appreciated that.
Yeah, I enjoyed that, and I stay in touch with New Britain really well. I was on the. They have those I Remember New Britain websites, and I'm catching up with some of my high school classmates from 1959 to 1961, and it's a lot of fun. But anyway, we want to talk about the legislature, and one of the things I want to talk to you about before I forget is what's it like to be the Speaker of the House in the last week of the session with all the stuff you have to do to organize and try to get done when you can't get it all done.
Yeah, it's incredibly stressful, incredibly rewarding, frustrated. You can add almost any word in there, and it really does cover the gambit of it. You have some incredible moments with members who work their tails off all session long to get their bills over the finish line, and you're able to help them. You have some terrible conversation with members that their bills just fell short, whether it's a vote count or the work wasn't done. And then you got to negotiate with all the other people in the building. The Republican minority in the House and the Republican minority in the Senate have a lot of power in the last week or so. The Senate itself is always a little challenging for me, who was always a House guy.
Yep.
And then you have the governor's office. So I would guess the easiest way to describe it is controlled chaos.
Also,
Joe,
good way to put it.
Definitely a great learning experience. learning all kinds of. Wow. And
it was one of the most rewarding times in my life. And what I miss the most, though, Dennis, and I know Susan will appreciate this, is really the family aspect. We're constantly around the table talking about the issues and trying to come up with solutions, and everybody sharing their ideas. That's what I love the most. It really was like coaching football, where you had to get a bunch of individuals in a room, have them buy into the team plan, and then execute it once the time was right. And I do miss that so much. Being up there as a lobbyist, I now have a front row seat. Can't get into the caucus room anymore all that often, so I don't know what they're talking about in there. But just watching it and seeing so many dedicated public servants.
Years ago, I used to go up there and help Rafi when I was a legal aid lawyer, and I would do some lobbying. And I remember, people I know, like Joe Courtney, who was in the legislature at the time, I'd be outside there, and they'd see me coming, and they'd walk the other way. And these were people who were friends of mine. So it's hard being, having to be somebody who is asking for to get something done as opposed to somebody who's a doer. But I'll tell you, I just want to say one more thing. And, coaching football has got to be a lot harder. I coach baseball a lot and basketball, but I've never played organized football. I played a lot of sandlot football, but I never coached a football team, and that's got to be a lot harder than coaching baseball or back with all those players and all those people playing offense and defense. It's got to be similar to being the Speaker of the House.
Yeah, I used to joke and say, both of my careers are very challenging. One of them I have to get a group of individuals to really get out and do what's necessary to, at least try to claim victory. And then the other group was exactly the same, just sometimes more mature.
Fantastic. Now, Susan is chomping at the bit, waiting for me to stop talking.
Oh,
I have a reputation, for it.
He says he never speaks during the show.
All right, Sue, go ahead.
But I just have to say,
he's your guest. Come on.
It's great. It's our guest because it's our show, and we're thrilled that he's here.
I'm always
he's
thrilled
always
he's
a great guest. He's a TV star as well. He's the Capitol Report.
We watch you every
8.
week on the Capitol Report.
Yes, we do. And
Sunday mornings, 10:30, Channel 8.
That's
I got to give it a plug.
Yeah.
Great show. Great show.
Absolutely. So we're thrilled. We got a star here, and not only a speaker and a football coach, but a star on TV now. And so there are a lot of things that you are in the weeds on. And one of the things is the overall look at. Let's just take a look at what happened this session, how we were really. I think everybody when we first started was very, very. We were very concerned because of all the reports from the federal government, and then we take a look at we have to really deal with what we have now, and so we kind of operated the whole session based on. What we have now, and hopefully we'll continue to get those resources, provided now the Congress, the budget from Congress has been, will take huge amounts of money from us, but it's in the Senate now, and I think that we're going to have to take a look at what we get when that finally passes. But, is that your sense of how it kind of went?
Yeah, I really felt as though the Trump administration within the first let's go 3 months. There was a lot of mixed messages. Nobody was really clear what direction it was going to finally land in. I think we're still suffering from that now. We saw the bill go through the House. You hear many senators standing up and saying, I'm not going to support it on both sides of the aisle. So I think we'll see changes. But yeah, it was very, very trying session for all of you that are juggling those important issues and trying to respond appropriately, because we'd hear, okay, this cut is taking place and we're no longer funding this one day, and the very next day we'd hear something different. And we hear from businesses, Representative Johnson, as you know,
yep.
One of the things they need the most is stability. What are the rules that we're playing under? If the rules are going to change, give us enough time to adjust. I think the exact same thing holds true for our government here in the state of Connecticut. We send more money than we get back to the federal government, and we want to know what we're getting back and programs are covered. And unfortunately for all of you, you didn't have that information, so you had to make hypothesis on what it was going to end up and hope your guesses were correct.
Yeah, that's exactly how I thought about it as well. And I'm thinking, well, we still have a very good rainy day fund. So we were able to manage that. We were able to manage keeping within the fiscal guardrails, which I have some concerns about in terms of this cycle. And I know we'll be readjusting them next cycle. So I'm hoping to be able to have some flexibility because, as you know, when they were originally put into effect, all the distressed municipalities were outside the spending cap, and now since 2017 they're inside the spending cap. So I'm hoping that not necessarily the distressed municipalities, but maybe the education budget, which we got a little bit of increase, and we had the Select Committee on Special Education, and so hopefully we'll be able to make sure we take care of the kids, and I think we started to do that this session. Was that your take?
Yeah, you guys really did. So the 3 issues, or maybe 4, I reserve the right to add another one on as we talk further. But the 3 big ones for me coming in were education to include early childhood education. I thought that was a big issue that you needed to grapple with. Medicaid funding, which you guys took positive step forward with almost $300 million in new money. I can argue with a straight face that it probably requires another $300 million, but you just couldn't get there this year. And then the utility costs. And, I happen to now work with Eversource in a role to try to get to the table and take some of the pressure off the ratepayers. And we made some progress this year on that note, but I think more importantly, it was the first year in quite a few years that we had an open, honest, fair negotiations and discussions about the issues. And I'm actually really excited to get back next session and continue that work, and hopefully we can do some in the off season. So early childhood and education, yes, you made progress. Special education and the early childhood. Medicaid, you got about others may differ. And then the utilities and the cost of energy, gas, everything here in the state of Connecticut, I think we made a little bit of progress, but we are in a good position moving forward to do more.
Yes.
Those were the 3 big ones for me this year.
They were my 3 big ones as well. I mean, as you know, I sat on the Select Committee for Special Education. I never left the Education Committee since I've been there in 2009. And, of course, we worked, and we finally, in 2017, when you were the speaker, finally got them to, got everybody to agree that we need to fully fund all the towns under the Education Cost Sharing Grant. And this time we were able to add special education to the Education Cost Sharing Grant and put some more money into the Excess Cost Grant, which comes into effect after all the money is after the district meets for a particular student 4 times the per pupil cost, so 4.5 times the per pupil cost. So yeah. So we were able to do that, and I think that that's a big deal because I don't think we stress enough, and this is one of the things that really, for me, is a big deal, that if you give more money to education to all the towns, guess what? Your property taxes go down.
Yeah, and people are struggling, as always reminded by you, your area is not an area that people think it is. They think of Eastern Connecticut, and they think of, the farms, the rural areas, not that many people in need, but in your area, Willimantic, you have Norwich, New London, Groton, all areas of high need. And I think we all know by the research, the earlier you can get to these kids, the more educational opportunities you give them, the outcomes speak for themselves.
Yes.
But given where we were in 2017, we only could put the pieces of the puzzle in place, not necessarily do what we needed to do. So it's really awesome now to sit back as one of the architects of the 2017 budget, as painful as it was for all of us.
Yes.
We did so many good things. We're now seeing the incremental improvements. Exactly. I think we also have to be careful that we're not just sending the money untethered, that we're going back and we're looking at the results, not just test scores, right? That's only one indicator. Are these kids prepared and ready to go out into the real world upon graduation and go to a tech school, maybe just start working right away. Maybe they go on to college. College isn't for everybody. So I think those are the next steps. And if we work cooperatively with the governor and university systems, the technical schools, and some of the private companies, we really can get there, and we could be a leader in the country of ready to work post-high school.
That's great. I agree 100%. And I think that we're very lucky to have a governor who also agrees that we need to take care of the children. That we need to be able to make sure that we have all these jobs here. We have places like, Electric Boat, Pratt & Whitney, Sikorsky Aircraft, that all require high-tech education. And we want to be able to keep those businesses here, those corporations here, and make sure that we can fill those jobs.
Yeah, and look, I've never been shy about my feelings for the governors, whether good, bad, or indifferent. I always try to speak the truth based upon who they are. I was really excited yesterday hearing some of Governor Lamont's comments within his end-of-session press conference that are indicating to me that there's a really good possibility he's going to run again. And he really is the open-hearted, caring individual that we all think we see on TV. We can quibble over issues, but knowing we have somebody there with the experience working with the Trump administration,
yes,
somebody with the experience of business, which is very important, but then the experience with all of us. I think he'll be the first one to tell you what he's learned in his first, 6.5 years in state government has really changed his view that he understands the crucial role the legislature plays. He understands the crucial role the municipalities play in all of this. And I think if he does run, which I'm really hoping, I'm interested to hear both of your opinions, whether you think he's going to run or not. But I think it really sets Connecticut up for incredible growth and production in the coming years.
Joe, I'm the town attorney in Andover, among a few other towns. I still work, and I'm working for mostly small towns now. Andover's a town of about 3,700 people, a lot of nice people. It's in eastern Connecticut. It's a pretty short ride into Hartford. So they're doing fairly well, but they still have, they have needs. Property tax is tough. They don't have a lot of business in town. Anyway, I got a call from the first selectman who was in Pennsylvania, and he said to me, Dennis, he said, the governor's coming to Andover for the first time ever on Wednesday afternoon. And, you know him, don't you? I said, yeah, I know him. And he says, well, I want you to be there in my place because, he has never come to Andover while I was there. So I had a meeting with him and just a few other members of the Board of Selectmen. They have some pretty capable people there. They do a good job. And he was having a good time. He was there for about an hour. We spoke for about 55 minutes, and we took him over to the community center, and a bunch of seniors were playing bingo, and he was thrilled by that. And he seemed so happy, and he seemed so, like he had such a great time with us there in Andover, where he'd never been before. And I've been bragging about it ever since. And I said, that's why he's running again, because he was with us that same day over in Andover, and we made a good impression on him. But you're right, he is such a nice guy, and he's done a really, really fine job. And I'm with you. I want him to run again in the worst way, and I let him know every chance I get because he's done a wonderful job, and he's electable, and we need continuity there. We've got issues, and I think we're doing a good job of dealing with them at the Capitol, in the legislature, and whatnot. But we need the leadership that he provides. He's able, as you said, to work with everybody in both parties, and in business and everything else. And I was just a little concerned that he might be thinking about it after 2 terms, but I was convinced after sitting down with him, right across from him for an hour, that he was ready to go. And then he announced it, and I saw it in the paper and in the Connecticut Mirror, and I said, "My God, that's because he went to Andover." I'll I'm willing to take credit. So,
well, I agree with Dennis. I think that the governor his experience is going to be really necessary as we move forward through these very difficult and very weird times on the federal level. And to have experience, know how it works, know the impacts of all these different things that we've been dealing with over the years, I think experience is a very, very important factor. And experience from someone who does get on with the business community and does understand the problems of communities like ours. And so I think that this is something. And as you know, I'll continue to discuss the difficulties of the communities that do so much for the state. Wyndham is here at 53% of the value of Wyndham goes to the state of Connecticut because of tax exemptions. So we take care of people with a hospital, with a university, with the airport. We have a federally qualified health center here. We have numerous group homes and halfway houses. All these things, many of them are not taxed at all. We have more public housing on a per capita basis than anywhere else in the state except for Hartford. So we do subsidize lots and lots of housing here, and we don't get a dime back from the state for that. And so these are things that we do, and we want to make sure that people understand that this is what Hartford does. This is what New Haven, Waterbury, New Britain, Norwich, New London, all of us have these issues. Now, in some of the areas, like if you go to Stamford, for example, they have a lot, but they also are right there in an area where you have highways. In Wyndham, there's no highway out of here. In Wyndham, we don't have a rail system that moves passengers in and out. So we really are isolated here. And we still are doing a huge amount of work for the state, a huge amount of work for the region with huge isolation issues. And so I'll be harping on that tune for a long time.
Despite all that, Joe, it's a great place to live. It's like a mini New Britain, except that we're close. You got Yukon right up the road. We're about 12 minutes from Gamble Pavilion, and I was the town attorney up there for 14 years. This is a great place to live, a lot of great people, and we are a town that welcomes everybody, just like New Britain. And you know, I love it here. I just wanted to say one thing. We got to take a commercial break now, but I wanted to say one thing. I have always known you to be an advocate for children, for young children, for early childhood education and whatnot, and I want to thank you so much for that. When Susan first went to the legislature in 2009. You know, we talked a little bit among the two of us, work partners, O'Brien and Johnson, about what committee she'd like to be on, and we both agreed the committee that she needed to be on, most of all, was education. And she's been on that committee ever since, and that is the place to be. And I really, I just want to say this on the air, that I really appreciate the support that you've always had for public education. If I wasn't a lawyer, I'd be a teacher.
My pleasure. I think it's the most important issue we grapple with.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, well, this is Susan Johnson. I'm here with my co-host Dennis O'Brien and our very special guest this evening, former Speaker Joe Aresimowicz. We will be right back after these messages. Hey, welcome back, everyone. This is Susan Johnson. I'm here with my co-host Dennis O'Brien and our very special guest this evening, our former Speaker Joe Aresimowicz. We're really very, very pleased to have you here. And I know that we've been talking a little bit about what happened this session. And I just want to move over a little bit from education over to the Medicaid budget, because it's something that hasn't been increased at all. And we kind of left some money on the table back in the day because every time we increase it, we get an increase in the match from the federal government. And our providers have been missing out on increases for several years now. So I'm really pleased to see that we are increasing that. And, of course, we're a little bit concerned because, as everybody's heard, that they're looking to maybe cut back on the Medicaid program.
Yeah, and the Medicaid program, just to be, try to be as clear as we can for the folks listening at home, it really is all-encompassing. Yes, it does cover low wage earners in the state. It provides healthcare insurance. It provides other supplemental benefits. But the biggest driver of it is the senior communities. Many families, when their loved ones become ill, cannot afford putting them into any type of supporting home. And here in Connecticut, we do a great job. We have, initial come in, it's supportive, but you're pretty much on your own, all the way up to complete care. We have one specifically designed for Alzheimer's and other issues. So we do a great job, and the majority of the Medicaid money we spend is in those areas. But our providers have been suffering. You have workers that are the frontline workers that are providing the care, literally making less than they could make at Target or Walmart in some cases. And this year, you guys did a great job, $300 million in new money going into that system to help raise up the wages of those workers, which Representative Johnson, you and I both know, when you give a low-wage worker additional money, it instantly goes back into the economy because they have needs. They need to put food on the table. They need to buy a vehicle. They need to, buy clothes. That all immediately goes out. So while we spend the money to make it a fair system, ensure these people are making enough money to where they can live in this state, that just spurs on the economy, the local economy, the small businesses, the pizza places, the hairdressers. So it is an economic stimulus while we're providing good care for people in the state. And we should be proud of that.
Absolutely. You made me think again of another aspect of the budget, which was the earned income tax credit that we added for families that have child care issues. And so the earned income tax credit was increased for the families who have needs. And the last time I looked at the data, we were getting about $4 million back here that gets spent right here in the community of Windham. And it's the same with all the local communities. When we have extra funds like Medicaid funds, when we have extra funds like the Earned Income Tax Credit, it gets spent in the town, and it really helps expand the tax base in the town you're living in. So it's a really excellent point that you just made there. Excellent. Yeah. So I'm thrilled that we're going to get some more Medicaid monies. It's been an area I've focused on almost since I've been at the Capitol. I'm on the Human Services Committee now, and the co-chairs are doing an excellent job. Jillian Gilchrist and Senator Matt Lesser both are doing great jobs with that. And we had that 4-year study that finally went into effect that showed that we were paying less than just about every single state in our area. So, and that's not good for our providers. So I'm really pleased that we're able to take care of the Medicaid situation. Now, moving on to the energy bill, we have some good ways of saving money in the energy bill. And I have to go plug some of the work that I did in section, 5, 6, and 7 or 8 of that bill, where I have geothermal as a major portion of that bill. And I'm thrilled that it was taken seriously this time, and that we are in a situation now where there's going to be more work being done in the area of geothermal. When you look at energy, you got to look at what you have for resources, and geothermal has not been tapped into, no pun intended, but we have to. That's one of the things that I was quite pleased about. So, yeah, but there are other aspects of the bill, and you want to go into some of those details?
Yeah, let's talk about the one that's really gotten the most headlines over the past year. It was, I think, poorly named public benefits, and, that had a stigma with it. But let's talk about really what that is. It is looking at those alternative energy sources. And at this point in time in the technology, we have to subsidize them, right? Whether it's wind, solar, geothermal. Right now, the technology is new, so it's more expensive. So as it progresses, it will get to a better price line. But we're able to take some of that portion off, and we're going to bond for it, look at it over the next 3 years, and decide what's going on. So you're going to see an instant reduction almost in your energy bill. Is it going to be as much as it could be? No. But what was most important about this session, and I have to give credit across the boards, the majority of the regulators came to the table in an open, honest format and shared what their concerns and thoughts were. The governor's staff, specifically Johnny Dock, And then the House leadership on both sides of the aisle. Kimmy Grove from the Speaker's office was absolutely amazing, working 18-hour days, constant meetings. We got people to the table. And like I said previously, in my opinion, it was the first time in the last 6 years that we had an open, honest, fair discussion of what we could and couldn't do, and we move forward. So the bill contains some of that language to do, as you said, these alternative energy sources and heating sources, which will help us in the long run. It also clarified some of the rules over at the PURA, which is our regulatory agency that governs the utilities, to ensure that it's done consistent with the rules the legislature has laid out. I think that's a really big plus. It allows for the utility, specifically Eversource in this case, to securitize the storm money. With climate change, since 2018 to now, we've had almost a 35 to 40% increase in storms of high severity. And as you know, Representative Johnson, after we had people in this state out for 7 and 8 days of power, you enacted laws onto the utilities that they had to respond in a certain amount of time, and that adds up. I think the amount owed for storm cost is $1.2 billion or thereabouts. Under the previous system, before you passed that law, the ratepayers would have to get that money back to the utilities because they've already paid it out to respond to the storms over a 7-year period. What you have done within the legislation is allow that to be spaced out now over 20 years. So it'll be a less of an impact. I think that was a huge step forward, and that's only done through the cooperation of the many branches. And then Vin Candelora, who's the minority leader, state representative from I believe it's North Branford,
Yep.
He really talked about process, that we can't have these fights play out in the paper anymore. Everybody needs to stay in their lane, do their jobs, do it in a way that's full transparency to where the public can follow it. And I really think that's a huge step forward.
I love that idea because if you hear a lot of different things, then you wonder, what am I paying for? And I think listing out the cost and what it is and calling it public benefits really was a misnomer, as you said, and it really needs to be broken out into the whole bill like it is so that people really see what's going on and, how things are. I'm glad to see things go into bonding as opposed to on the bill. I think that makes a lot of sense because you don't want to have that stuff in the bill. It's because bonding, at least you pay for that according to your income. Here, this isn't the way it was being done. It wasn't being done, and just dumping it in the bill isn't a wise thing to do.
Yeah, and we enacted those.
I'm sorry, you're breaking up.
For all the right reasons.
Yes.
Right? We wanted to do solar. We wanted to do wind. We wanted to do geothermal. But at the time, we didn't have the ability to pay for it. Right. As the state, we were in tough times. So we put it onto the bill. But then once, outside influences started coming in to where, energy was getting more and more expensive, it was just a multiplier effect that the ratepayers just couldn't bear anymore. We've all heard the stories of the people that were paying, $65 to $100 a year, and then this past summer specifically, they were getting $300 and $400 bills. And I think you responded appropriately. Pull some of that off, give the ratepayers relief, and now let's work cooperatively on lowering the bills altogether. What can we do as a collective group?
Exactly. I think that analyzing the rules that PURA has put into effect as well, that we have the way that the public benefits thing is out in the statute that allows a lot of flexibility. I think that the legislature needs to, step up and take a look at every single rule, its impact, and take a look at that. I'm looking forward to doing more of that. As you know, I was on energy and technology for 2 terms when I first got to the Capitol. And I also worked on the waste-to-energy facility we had here in Windham in the landfill, and I helped with recycling. So I have a little bit of a, rule-making background in some of these energy areas, and which is the other thing that I co-chair actually, I'm chairman of the Inland Wetlands and Watercourses Commission here, and I realized that we are sitting on an aquifer. The city of Willimantic is one of the poorest places, which could really utilize geothermal. And our new town manager, Rob Zernetsky, actually has a background in being able to utilize existing structures. For example, you could utilize the sewage treatment pipes for geothermal as opposed to trying to make, more infrastructure. So we have existing infrastructure all throughout the state that could be utilized for geothermal. And, of course, it has to be modified. But it's not the same as having to dig and put the pipes in and all that when you've already got the pipes there. So I'm hoping that will reduce the cost and that more people will take a look at that, especially in the justice-involved communities where we need to have, environmental justice communities rather, where we need to have support. And almost all of them have sewage treatment plants and pipes. So it might be a way to do that will cost less money in the long run and take care of the emissions.
Yep, I totally agree.
Yeah, it should be interesting, and I think that, and of course we included Pure in part of it, but we also wanted to make sure there was some ability for a town to be able to do some of this stuff on its own as well. So we'll see how that works, but it was my hope.
And I also think you've put into place some areas to where the towns can cooperatively work on their own, especially with companies that do fuel cells. You guys can do your own energy parks to where you get 3 and 4 fuel cells. While they run on natural gas, they emit very little, but could provide energy specifically for industrial parks. If you have schools next to each other, you get a fuel cell, you take advantage of some of that, and you can run your schools off of it. So I think there's a lot of things out there that are hitting their peak in technology. They're going to be more and more affordable. We just got to hold true to our values and make sure we continue to work on them and don't just give up on them because they're not getting the results as quickly as we would like.
Oh, these transitions take time, no doubt about it. And I think we'll get more people investing in these things once they see the success. So I think investments will come from all angles when they see these kinds of ideas and see how they work out. And in fact, this town manager we have here now has done this in, I believe, in Canada and other parts of the country. So I can't believe we have this, and also Representative Steve Winter, got a grant from the federal level for geothermal in the New Haven rail area. So it's happening, and it's going to be great. And I'm sure that there'll be a lot of participation from all the groups involved. Eversource, everybody will be working at this, I think, in the future.
Well, this has been such a fascinating discussion between the two of you on energy, and I know so little about it. I'm going to have to listen to the show again to make sure I don't miss anything, to make sure it gets drilled into my old brain. And this is great. I really, one of the things I do, because I work at home, Joe, and every once in a while I'll walk by, I'll go back into the house. I work out of my garage. I'm a garage lawyer. We have a nice garage, a nice big garage. Anyway, with room for me and my computer, and a couple of cats, 3 cats. And anyway, he walks through the house, and I'll watch the discussions at the legislature for a while, because after a while, sometimes you get somebody up there who is not worth listening to. I'll be honest, but there's an awful lot of really interesting discussion, and it's great to hear the kind of discussion I just heard from you two, because what a great learning experience it is for the public to be able to have. CTN is great to be able to have that on television. It's not something you can watch for 12 hours or anything like that, but it is it is really good, and it's good for people to know what's going on there, and also to appreciate that governing is not easy. It's really hard.
No, and I have the benefit. I have obviously the TV show. I'm up there, and then we get a lot of school classes come up, and we have a lot of other business groups that come up. And my message is the same to all of them, and even with what's going on at the federal level, you're
breaking up again, Joe.
candidate. Oh, I'm sorry. I think your job before the election.
Yep. I'm sorry. You're breaking up again.
Is to dig into the candidates and find about them. What's their experience? What do they have to offer? If you can get into a conversation with them, that is the absolute best. So you're judging for yourself. You make your decision, you cast your vote, but your job doesn't end there as being a good citizen. You got to watch. You got to be clued in. You got to hear how they're voting on issues. If you have an opinion, engage. Call them up. Meet them for coffee. We can't be just silent bystanders right after we vote. Good, bad, or indifferent, they're doing a good job, let them know. If they're doing something you disagree with, have a meeting with them. Give them a chance to explain why they've decided to do what they've done. Then weigh it out. I mean, we have to be more active in our government if we expect our government to do the right things. Because the only way they do the right things is hearing from us.
That's right.
That's
we have
so true. I mean, one of the things that we are able to do is listen to our people, listen to the people that we have hearings with, and try and make policy. None of us can come up with every single idea on our own. We're down to our last 45 seconds, Joe. I want to make a few final remarks.
Yeah, look, I love the opportunity to talk to folks about state government. I can't tell you how much I appreciate the job you and your colleagues do. Many great freshmen are coming in each and every cycle. It's just getting better and better. Your leadership, especially in the House, is amazing. I just can't thank you all enough for the time and dedication you put in for the citizens of the state.
Well, thank you so much, Joe, for being on the show. We really, really appreciate your interest in the state, and having somebody with your experience working with us at the Capitol is so important. So we really, really appreciate everything you do.
Hope you come back again soon, Joe, and be on the show. It's great to have the people of the Willimantic area get an opportunity to listen to you, talk about your things that you do and things that you've done, and the interacting with Susan and talking about all these great issues. Thanks a lot.
Thank you for having me. You guys have a great weekend.
You too.
You too. Take care. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.